Welcome back, everyone, to Point of Sale, the retail supply chain show where we break down great retailers and the data and technology that move their supply chains. We've got a good show for you today. Wonderful guest as well as we dive into the world of international retailers and e-commerce and how to grow the technology behind growing into different markets across the world, and more importantly, working with vendors across the world as well. And speaking of, I have a really good case study for us to dive into today. In the past, we talked about a lot of the technology behind DoorDash and what's brought their exposure into the market and explosion in taking over on-demand delivery. Today, I figured let's start with a retailer, in a way, more of a convenience retailer who's looking to emerge more in the e-commerce market. And for everyone who's a fan of Slurpees, which I will judge anyone who is not, the good old 7-Eleven. Now, we all know 7-Eleven is one of our favorite convenience stores. Once a year, they allow us to go into their four walls with any type of container whatsoever and fill it up with as much Slurpee as we want to. And every once in a while on 7-Eleven in July, we get a chance to get a free Slurpee. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is the growth and the expansion of 7-Eleven over the upcoming past years. Right now, there's about 77,000 different 7-Eleven stores across 18 countries, not just here in the U.S., many over in Asia and Latin America as well. They actually serve, between just Japan and North America, 29 million customers a day. So huge stuff. And they're really trying to bridge that gap now between e-commerce and convenience stores, much like we've seen with these on-demand delivery products, something like GoPuff, right, who's creating almost an e-commerce-like convenience store. 7-Eleven's looking to compete with that. They're not going anywhere, and they've made the investments and the partnerships in order to do so. And one in particular I've noticed is Speedway. It's a gas station chain that many know about, one of my favorites as well, who actually always had slushies and Slurpees as well. Well, I noticed over the past year that they started serving Slurpees, the 7-Eleven brand. And what's that for? Well, they acquired Speedway, 7-Eleven acquired Speedway in 2020 for $21 billion, which was a huge move. Of course, with that comes a number of gas stations, actual physical locations, warehouses, etc. Now, I want to dive into exactly where these investments and partnerships have focused on the technology side of things in order to achieve that growth. If we can bring up this first chart here, we're going to dive into 4 different areas that they've focused on. One, customer loyalty and rewards, lifestyle engagement, on-demand delivery, and financial services. All of these are big areas of their strategy in order to continue this growth and compete with a number of these on-demand competitors. And we'll find out soon, some of them they're actually partnering with. So let's start with customer loyalty, if we can bring that one up. A couple that they've actually partnered with, and this will showcase a lot of their work on their global expansion. First is out of South Korea, a group called Kakao Bank, where basically every time that they buy purchases from 7-Eleven, it's an application that allows them to win prizes and coupons. Again, bringing the customer back as many times as possible. That's a lot of times when you look at a lot of these on-demand delivery and convenience stores, the name of the game, like always with SaaS, is stickiness. So how can we bring that customer back? Another really interesting partnership is with Philippine Smart Communications. This is basically a group that helps give out minutes cards, cell phones, something like kind of a T-Mobile like of the Philippines. Same thing here. As you buy more of those products in 7-Eleven, you can win prizes and even more smart products, call cards, etc., which are a lot bigger in Asian countries than even here in the United States as well. Let's dive into next, lifestyle engagement. This one gets a little fun too, because I think a lot of us will recognize some of the partners on this one. The first one is one of my favorite games of all time. One that one of my siblings is actually incredibly good at, is Rocket League. many of you probably know this. It's basically a game where you play soccer with a giant ball, but instead of a human kicking it around, it's usually a person in a car or a cart of some type. So they partnered with Rocket League. So for certain purchases and certain items, you can collect points and actually win in-game costumes, in-game prizes, things of that nature. The second one, which some of us might think has fallen off the map, but it's definitely not true, especially over in Japan and other Asian countries, is Pokemon Go. They've actually, it's the company behind it is Niantic, and they've actually taken 19,000 stores in Japan and turn them into Pokestops within the game. So again, as people come to these different Pokestops to trade and capture Pokemon, they're going to be also becoming customers of 7-Eleven. And last and not least is a company called Sarah, which is the Japanese type of Yelp. And this is actually an investment that 7-Eleven has put into. And what they gain off of this is really data of their competitors and other stores around them to figure out what consumers are looking to buy and what's popular at the time. On-demand delivery is going to be a lot of names that you recognize here. If you pull this one up, the biggest partners out there are Grubhub, Postmates, DoorDash, Instacart, and Drizzly, which is more of an on-demand alcohol delivery program. Of course, in order to keep up with GoPuff and other companies like that, you're going to need to partner with these guys to make sure that you can deliver on time. And as for everyone that uses these, I'm sure you've seen 7-Eleven pop up there as a company you could purchase from. There's also Neuro. We've wrote about Neuro a number of times at FreightWaves. They are a robotics company that's delivered for companies like Domino's, and they started serving California customers with Neuro in 2021. And then an investment as well in Serve Robotics. So 7-Eleven Ventures, well, actually 7 Ventures is 7-Eleven's VC arm. They made an investment in Serve Robotics, which is self-driving robots that focus on driving along sidewalks and neighborhoods in that manner. So a lot of investment going on there. And then last, but definitely not least, I think this is like really important to kind of understand especially globally, how these can be very helpful to customers. So on the financial services side, they've partnered with Arcus, which is a MasterCard payment solution. So in Latin America, where most people use cash, they're able to quickly open up a payment card that they can go and track online. They can even track it through their own 7-Eleven app. They've also partnered with Shopee in Malaysia, which is a mobile wallet. So much like Apple Pay, they can just go into a 7-Eleven and go ahead and pay that through their mobile phone. And then in Thailand, they've also partnered with Siam Commercial Bank, which actually lets users open up a savings account in 7-Eleven. Right? So I'm over here just assuming I can get a decent slice of pizza at 1 o'clock in the morning and a Slurpee. But in other locations, 7-Eleven is serving almost like a bank for a lot of its customers. And then a couple areas that aren't on this list as well is a lot to do with more of the environmental side. So they've also partnered with P&G in order to start putting EV fast chargers in their stores or outside their stores in their parking lots. And they partnered with Honeywell to make sure that they're upgrading all their refrigerated systems to save as much energy as possible. And those are just really a couple of key areas environmentally that they're focused on. But it shows you the work that 7-Eleven is putting in to make sure that they are one of the top convenience stores, stay one of the top convenience stores, and continue to compete with a lot of the technology and on-demand delivery systems we see today. And that's what it takes in order to make sure that you're staying competitive internationally and serving more customers who actually need services like financial services we listed off that aren't easily available to them like we find here in America. And speaking of international growth and being able to help e-commerce companies expand and sell in different areas, our guest today is one that can dive into this for us as well. We have with us today Chad Schofield, the co-founder and chief digital officer of BoxC. Chad, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Excited to have you here, and really excited to introduce BoxC to our community. Can you tell us a little bit more about your past in logistics and really why you founded BoxC to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, my and the co-founders, a lot of times we kind of came from the sourcing area of e-commerce in that way, and then we really wanted to find a way to ship uh, affordably and but a good value around the world. And so we ended up creating BoxC, which is really what we call ourselves as a e-commerce logistics management platform, and that gives the ability to kind of pull together last mile carriers from around the world and connect all the pieces to first mile carriers around the world, allow e-commerce retailers to ship direct to customers anywhere.
I love that. And I guess while you're creating BoxC, what were some of the biggest issues that you saw with technology available out there today that was maybe slowing down the ability for e-commerce retailers to expand to customers across the world?
Yeah, I think that there's really two areas in there when it comes to e-commerce. One is it's just very intimidating and confusing to most e-commerce retailers about duties and taxes and regulations and how do I just keep track of this? I just don't understand it, or it's just too complicated. So many times you will have e-commerce retailers just not do it, and if they do, it's we just do it and we'll just throw it in the post and be done with it. And another part of that is it's weren't a really lot of good options. There's a postal option, and then there's more like the integrators, Express and those options. So there wasn't anything able to take advantage of what's out there, but it's somewhat fragmented. So we kind of gave the ability to create a shipping route between two countries using different last mile carriers, middle mile, first mile, and allowed that to be much more affordable and sustainable for a retailer to ship internationally.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just thinking, top of my head, my first instinct would just go to maybe UPS and FedEx and ship that out. But imagine having hundreds of customers and having to label all those yourself, and it would be quite. And then and the customer service of it, right? Like being able to actually showcase when it's going to deliver, problem solving if it's not there, can be an enormous headache. How I guess when you're working with some of your new customers or sellers that are just starting to see some real growth within their own e-commerce experience, or their stores or whatever they're selling, what issues tend to arise, especially when it comes to dealing with the last mile delivery and making sure it actually ends up on someone's doorstep in another country?
Well, a lot of that is we keep, our platform keeps control of that, gives you control over what last mile carrier it is. It's also, it uses the last mile carrier's tracking number. So as far as a consumer is concerned, they're getting, other than the time frame being a little bit longer than normal, they're getting pretty much a local experience with the shipping, because it's a familiar local shipper to them, last mile carrier. And then also, our platform's used by, uh, airlines, freight forwarders, um, uh, uh, postal operators to also kind of create their own and better service to ship around the world. So many times it's not just e-commerce e-commerce retailers. It's many times companies that are in the logistics industry but don't have the technology or the capabilities, to easily get into e-commerce side of it. So they can leverage a lot of their um, existing infrastructure to take advantage of that. And like an airline already has air freight capacity, and they can just pretty quickly be ready to go and deliver for e-commerce retailers wherever they're located and around the world.
That's awesome. So you're almost allowing logistics providers to add a whole new value set to their offerings without having to make that huge tech investment. That's I'm sure very helpful, especially now as logistics providers probably trying to find or at least dig their way into the e-commerce network a little bit more.
Yeah, we're excellent. We're a gateway drug into the e-commerce shipping business for logistics
Well, I love
providers.
that.
Yeah, so it makes it very easy for them. As I described the e-commerce retailers experience, that passes on to them, so they can offer that same experience to their customers and their clients. So they don't really have to worry about all these things. We kind of abstract all that out.
I'm wondering from your experience as well in this industry, kind of like zooming out a little bit more. For many of these like large retailers, we've seen them canceling a number of their shipments due to a lot of their inventory still being here available in the U.S. and having troubles getting that off the shelves. Have you seen this with any of even within your customers, and how do you help them avoid making these decisions that could lead to this excess inventory situation?
Well, that's really a lot of our customers from the e-commerce retailers were somewhat very well placed when the everything started becoming congested and then too much inventory, all the upsets, because there many times we have a lot of customers that are fulfilling in China or Vietnam or directly close to the manufacturer. So and then shipping direct to consumer from there rather than importing it to the US or into Europe and then distributing it, doing e-commerce shipping. So they don't have to keep a lot of inventory on hand, and so they can move pretty quickly. Uh, adjust for any changes in slower sales or bypass congestion. And we had a lot. We picked up a lot of business from companies that especially last peak season, holiday season. There was a lot of companies that just decided to ship directly to consumer from China, rather because they could not get inventory into the U.S. to put in the warehouses to hit peak season, holiday season. So they were able to bypass that. So it gave them a lot of agility and flexibility to deal with anything like that.
On that note, especially agility and dealing internationally, many companies, if there's some type of global tension, like the pandemic or the Russia-Ukraine conflict we're currently seeing, or some type of global tension that may push a retailer or e-commerce provider to change where they're supplying or getting their supplies, is how can technology help them build a more agile supply chain? And do you see a number of customers at this time looking for different international suppliers and in order to maintain their growth that they've achieved, especially in the e-commerce network, right, over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, that's as you go into agility, the flexibility. Our platform kind of allows for custom um, routes, as we call them. From one country to another country. So if you have the demand or what have you, the volume, it's not very much to spin that up. So if you have a lot of customers in certain parts of the world, you can, you know, build that route, and it goes, and service those customers, to bypass any, anything that can happen, like I said,
Right.
Ukraine, pandemic, all that. It really builds that in. So, and it also puts you in a position where your inventory can be, yes, you spread it around, even if you have warehouses in Europe or the US, and your key markets and that sort of thing. It also puts you in position to where if you run into back orders, or products are really popular, they go viral on TikTok, and you're out of inventory in Europe in a week. And then you're stuck with waiting, 30, 60, 90 days to get it into there. You can, streamline that and start fulfilling those orders straight near from the manufacturer direct to the consumer from there. So it just gives you a lot of flexibility in that way. And it's more, and it can be supplemental. I mean, of course you want to have your most popular products, and there's plenty of volume, of demand for it. You could have it, in your U.S. warehouses, but on products that, are maybe it's a shallow inventory, on sizing and things like that, or there's all sorts of reasons why it can be supplemental as well as just a, full on strategy just due to international shipping. And it also test new markets, test new products. You do limited, manufacturing runs near the factory, and ship those out and test out a new product.
I especially love that you brought up, as much as I avoid TikTok as much as possible, the viral aspect of things, right? Because once something does go viral, if you aren't going to tell these people, hey, 60 to 90 days, the product will be available, something else is going to go viral day 3 from now, right? So it's
Right.
always good that there's that supplementary piece too. And I guess for the remainder of the year, going into peak season, a lot of holiday shopping, what do you expect to see from the e-commerce space globally, and how is BoxC preparing customers to handle those sales?
Well, we always, I think everyone in the e-commerce business starts to prepare their customers for what's coming, and and to gauge what their expectations are. So we'll start that really this month, to start asking, if there's any plans of new product launches or marketing, or whatever plans may be happening for our customers. Um, and then as far as, and we prepare a lot, the pandemic, when the world was melting down, and, air capacity became just almost non-existent. We had to, we had a lot of work to do, and scrambling to do. So we prepare for
Yeah.
that, for peak season air freight. Um, and then we, judge by their customs, and we have to give our last mile carriers a bit of a heads up of what we expect, and all that. But as time goes on, we open up more and more ports that were, set up to allow anyone, any of our customers to enter into, and so, decentralize that a bit, and take care of the opportunity. So that's really kind of where we prepare for the holiday season and peak season.
Awesome. Well, to wrap this up really quick, Chad, as a new guest to the show, I like to play a quick game with everyone. And it's called What Kind of Consumer Are You? Where we take some of the different trends we've seen over the past year or so and see maybe how that's changed or how people are going back to normal. And I think the first one I'd love to ask you is, well, I think we only have time for one, but a big one is home delivery, especially when it comes to groceries. So I'm wondering, do you shop online for your groceries, or do you order them through an app and have them delivered to your home?
So I go to the grocery store. I used to shop online and have it delivered when I was, but now I've moved to the grocery store. Yeah.
I will say slowly I've gotten back to the grocery store too. Well, hey, Chad, where can people go and learn more about BoxC and reach out to you as well?
BoxC.com, BoxC, as in Chad, .com. And you'll get a lot of, there you can reach out and contact us and get a lot of more information.
I love that. And we'll make sure to share that as well. And thank you so much, Chad, for coming on. We'll have to have you on again soon as you start to grow, especially after the peak season. Let's see how that goes.
Yeah, we can give you a post-mortem
nice
or something. Not yes. What's a prologue? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Love it. Thanks so much, Chad. And for everyone out there today, remember that we are not just a show, not a podcast. We are a community, and we do have a bi-weekly newsletter. So make sure you go to freightwaves.com, click on newsletters, and sign up for our newsletter today. Other than that, thank you everyone for listening. And I won't see you next week because we do have a summit, but I'll talk to you here in a couple weeks from now. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.